Hello, I'm Miriam Corowa. Welcome to Message Stick. Before Galileo, Aboriginal Australians had a sophisticated cosmology linked to their Dreamtime beliefs and creation stories. In the International Year of Astronomy, when scientists worldwide are celebrating the 400th anniversary of Galileo turning his telescope to the stars, it's no surprise that organisations like NASA are studying what our first people knew about the night sky and how it has changed through millennia. Grantley Saunders examines the space between Western astronomy and Aboriginal cosmology and the guiding spirits that occupy the dark matter in between.
A lot of white people that don't know what the star look like. You know, they go to big school, but because they're in the city, covered in cloud, they don't know what direction the star, what area is the star rising from, east or north or west or wherever.
What we do know is that things like Stonehenge and the pyramids and so on have only been around for like 5,000 or 6,000 years. So if this knowledge of astronomy goes back more than about 10% of the time that people have been in Australia, yes, it makes the Aboriginal Australians the world's first astronomers.
Indigenous astronomy, I think, is one of the oldest cultural perceptions of astronomy on Earth. So I think it's absolutely fantastic that we have the opportunity to sit under the stars and learn about some of that and exchange some ideas about what the night sky means, and also give the artists an opportunity to look through the telescopes, which many of them haven't done before. And so that gives you, again, a different view of the universe.
When you're looking at the sky, it really shows a difference in the way white people think to the way Aboriginal people think. Because white people, when they look at the sky, they look for the bright star, whereas Aboriginal people don't do that. They look at the spaces in the sky, and that's where they draw their stories from and all sorts of things that's happening with the sky.
This year's the International Year of Astronomy, and so there's a number of national work packages across Australia that are being run. One of those is Indigenous astronomy. This particular idea came up when we were in Geraldton last November, and we had a look at an exhibition of some Indigenous art, and there were some really nice pieces of some of the constellations and the Seven Sisters, and we decided that we'd get the artists and the scientists together to explore this a bit more deeply.
It's really quite fascinating to have a look up really close at what's going on, and when I saw the ring around one of the planets last night on the Mullawar Oval, I sort of thought, oh yeah, because it's really hard to comprehend what the scientists are talking about, and these, talking about collecting sounds and these things that are really foreign to us. I think it's just a lot easier to stick with the stories that we've been told instead of trying to make sense of what the scientists are doing.
The significance of the Murchison Radio Astronomy Observatory is that this is Australia's candidate site for the next generation radio telescope called the Square Kilometre Array. So this is a telescope we hope to build over the next 10 years and will be the most powerful radio telescope ever built. And the Murchison Radio Astronomy Observatory is where we want to build it.
We're building that on traditional land with the full support of the local Indigenous people. And what we're doing is not that different from what traditional Aboriginal people did when they tried to understand the sky. So there's a sort of commonality of interest. It's not like we're going in and ripping up the ground and stuff like that. We're sitting there serenely on the ground looking up the sky, trying to understand the sky. So it actually fits in pretty well with the preconceptions of the local Indigenous people.
Well, I like looking at the land, for one, and seeing the low impact on the land. Like, it's not like a mining company that's just digging up and destroying stuff. Well, I hope it's not going to be like that. That's one thing I got. The beauty of the breakaway country will still remain there. It looks like low impact with all the little things that they explain that picks up the sound. All that sort of stuff was really interesting. And then thinking that they're going to take an image from sound from outer space.
It's one of the quietest places on Earth. So if you look at a map of the Earth and look at a map that represents the man-made interference, there's this clear patch over Western Australia. And so that's why we're here. It was significant for us to be able to bring artists from this country to this particular location, which has significance for the Indigenous people, but also has significance for the scientists.
When we look at the sun and the moon, in nearly all Aboriginal cultures, the moon is male and the sun female. So in Arnhem Land, the moon is this man called Nyalindi. He's very fat and lazy, and he made his wives and his sons get all his food for him. And they got pretty angry about this and actually attacked him with their axes and chopped bits off him until he got thinner and thinner and died. And of course, those are the phases of the waning moon. He stays dead for 3 nights, and then he comes back to life again and gradually gets healthier and healthier and healthier till he reaches the full moon.
The sun, we believe like he's going round. You know, that's we say like he's going, sun just going around. You know, that's called Jalala. He's following the Jalala all the way.
They have a calendar of their own making. Position of the Pleiades, the sunrise, knows certain other foods are right.
Interestingly, in the 1940s, Charles Mountford was talking to people up in the Northern Territory and asked them that question, is the Earth round? In Yolngu culture, like in many Indigenous cultures, the sun is female and she gets up in the east, goes across the sky, goes down in the west, and moves under the ground back to the east. And Charles Mountford asked this guy, so how does she get back? And the guy picked up a box and said, like this. So he had a clear idea that the Earth was there in space and the sun moving around it or appearing to move around it, which is interesting. It's not a flat Earth. But if you can go back to the 40s, before people started getting a Western education, then you actually find out what the traditional beliefs were. And yes, the beliefs do seem to be that a full recognition of how the Earth and sun moved. They also had a recognition of how the moon moved, how it's linked to tides, a lot of understanding of how the objects move in the sky, a tremendous depth of knowledge.
I was taught to be read and write from one Scotsman who is called Peter Hogg. Taught me how to read and write with the charcoal in a flat rock. And every night when I went to sleep, I was reading and taught myself. But when I was with old Joe in the bush and all the other grandparents living in the bush, whenever you get lost, go out, you must use a star to track you to where the water hole is or where your camp is. And star will drag you all the way right up to where you are. That was our watch. Drovers themselves, or the station managers, they didn't have a clock or watch in those days. They used a star. They could see the evening star, the morning star, the midnight star will come along where the Milky Way swung from the straight across, right down. They knew what time it's going to be daylight.
When you look up the sky over a few hours in the night, you see the whole sky moving around. Bill Harney talks about how Scorpio goes around like the hands on a watch, and that's their clock. You just watch Scorpio move around. So you find, certainly people right across Australia understood how the sky goes around, not just during a day, but during the course of a year as well. And when different constellations are up, that causes different seasons. You know, when Scorpius is up, it's the winter. When Orion is up, it's coming to spring and the food starts coming out. And you get lots of people using this to regulate their seasons.
You can see where we call Bonin. Bonin means the Milky Way, where it's spinning around. You know, each different hour the Milky Way is turning. You can see the Milky Way with the Emu peak that is over near some twin pointer. we call that Nade and Dungno. And in front of that, we say that's emu footprints, which is 7 cross. When that pointer coming down and looking down, and we say that Kumari Yangun, we say with the language, Kumari Yangun van Mayan, that means Ishamana feed a plum. Jalgarama means Pendanova. That's when Ishamana feed. And we say Ishamana feed, Guru Noaj Banan, Maragan Chok Bango, that Guru Noaj Banan means you're going to listen to the storm bird will sing out. He'll go, chowok, chowok. That means all of black plum tree, we call them Buddha, will have all of flowers. Plums start to develop, and he still continue on going, chowok, chowok. And later on, when our fruits are all become cooked, he'll go, water, 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 water. He'll notify the people, all the foods are falling down.
Early in the year, you just see his head, and the head is where the Southern Cross, and the little star is the eye of the emu. Then as the months go by, the emu gets bigger and bigger, and when you see the whole emu and it's lying, they tell us that's when the emu's laying eggs and sitting on the nest.
It's around March, April, and when the first rains come. So we got the weather included with the stars. Indigenous people, they can't see it. So we told our friend from Radio Mama, we said, just look for something that's not there.
One of the big differences between some of the Aboriginal constellations and European constellations is that European constellations are all made of stars. You join the dots to make the constellations. The emu in the sky is made of the dark clouds in the Milky Way. And you find it right across Australia, this emu in the sky. So the people in Ku-ring-gai National Park, they saw the emu. We think they engraved this picture of an emu on the ground. This picture happens to be in the right orientation, so that when the emu in the sky is above this picture, it's just the time the emus are laying their eggs, and so it's the right time to harvest their eggs.
We watch the Milky Way to tell us when the emus are laying and when they're nesting, and then that's when we go out. The emu egg hunting season, that was the main focus on how as kids we'd go out, we'd watch the Milky Way first and then go out and with my old uncle and my brothers and sisters and my mum and that, and then track and get eggs.
When you see the breaking dawn, first star come up and breaking dawn, and then what they told us, you're going to be there.
I just find it riveting to listen to Bill telling these stories, and they're the same objects that I'm interested in, same objects in the sky, something that I'll have a scientific explanation for, and he has this Wardaman explanation for, and I love seeing the way these come together. And often there's similarities. He has a star being a tunnel in the sky, and we compare that with the idea of a black hole and things like this. So there's similarities. You can't push these similarities too far, but it's interesting the way these ideas come together from completely different parts of the globe, from two people with completely different backgrounds. What I really, really like, and I haven't found it yet, would be if they're Aboriginal stories which tell us about things that happened in the past, supernovae, meteor impacts, things like this.
Meteorites, we call them like Maril. There's a big shooting star called. Comets, that's one got the tail. Model, we call that tail. But Malik mean is real bright, see? You're not allowed to look at them because you blind your eye, we say to the kid.
A supernova is when a star explodes. You see this really bright thing up in the sky for maybe days. And eyewitness observations of these from the past, we very rarely see them. It's only one every few hundred years. So if there were Aboriginal stories of supernovae in the past, it'd be fantastic to hear them.
This comet, it doesn't turn up often. Now and again it comes up whenever Sometimes you can see them daytime, right up top. Now, when you see that shooting star take it off, that's notifying the people your family passed away. Sit still and you can hear it go, whoop. That's it, all somebody family passed away. But it's number one for let you know your family passed away. You know, that's what everybody can read that.
Well, my parents used to talk about, like, when somebody dies, you know, when somebody dies in the family, they always get together and they go out and look at the sky and always pick a star and say, oh, that's her out there, or that's him out there right out in the bush. We used to stand and watch the stars.
A lot of people, when they take their kids out, and a lot of white people as well, saying when someone's died, oh, that's them up there, that's them, that star in the sky. And a lot of Aboriginal people think the same, that, you know, that's where the spirit, that's where their loved one now is, in that part of the world.
When they find a mum, we call that in Aboriginal name, Dingaraja. And in the white man word, they call it reincarnation. And it comes back to find your mum. That's why all our children will start born. But we said all our spiritual people born there, come, Holy Spirit taken up there, they gone in there, take it all. And rock out, collecting them all. And that's why they there.
Are you able to tell me something about the Seven Sisters?
The hunter at the back is trying to catch up to the sister that's meant to be behind, and you don't see it. It's you actually see 6
Orion, what we call the constellation Orion, in most Aboriginal societies is either a hunter or a group of young men. The details vary, but it's nearly always a group of young men or hunters or fishers or something like that. The Seven Sisters is nearly always a group of young girls, and again the details vary. But in many Aboriginal cultures, there are stories about the young men in Orion chasing these girls in the Seven Sisters, which is fascinating. You find this right across Australia.
Orion the hunter was very arrogant, thought he was really invincible and really impressive. And he was, so he's like a really strong man. But to teach him a lesson, the scorpion came along and bit him and killed him. And the gods put Orion the hunter over here, and they put the scorpion on exactly the other side to keep them apart so they wouldn't fight on the sky.
What we call today, the Seven Sister, the Marabana people, Marabana we call today, the Cape lady still living in the Cape today. We say to the young boy, if you go out, the Marabana might grab you and take you away and to the top. There's all a young boy walking around, and these 7 girls come down, grab him, they do what we call mumland. Mumland means they grab him and let him and took off with him up in the sky.
All this Aboriginal astronomy, is it about stories and explanations of what's going on in the sky? Or did people actually make measurements as well? And interestingly, there's a site down in Victoria, a place called Wurdi Youang. It's a big stone arrangement, about 50 metres across. They're underneath the place on the horizon where the sun sets, the midwinter sun, the midsummer sun, and the equinoxes. So there's fairly strong evidence now that this site was actually built by the Aboriginal people hundreds or thousands of years ago to point towards these places on the horizon where the sun sets at these special times of the year. You know, there are still skeptics, and if you really want to convince those skeptics, I think what we really need to do is to find other sites like that.
From the creation time, the creator, they're the one that made this thing work. We say to the archaeologists, could you tell us what you mean about that footprints in the rock? We'd say, look at that, that's really normal footprints. We put in the mud and he's there. No one scratched that and put it in there. That sort of got him stuff a bit. But for us, we said from creation time, back in the dream time, that's when his footprint was in the mud, now they're in the rock. We can justify everything, what we can see in front of us, Bush medicine, rock formation, and all that. They're professor, reading that in the book. We're Bush professor. We all got it in the song and the story from creation. We're still there today. And passing them information to the young one from word of mouth.
It was about 7 months ago that the idea for this project was cooked up, and the idea was to get scientists together with Indigenous artists. Scientists and artists together had a really nice opportunity to sit around the campfire and trade different stories about the night sky. So the Seven Sisters, the emu in the sky, and also the Western myths and legends about the night sky. So we had a really excellent exchange of ideas, a really nice cultural exchange. And tonight you're seeing the pieces of art that have been produced by these amazing artists expressing that. And I think without exception, all of the pieces that have been produced, 90 plus pieces of art, are absolutely astounding. And I hope that in the future we can continue this relationship and continue to work together.
All of this experience coming out to Bellardi and talking to the scientists and looking at the actual site, makes me really proud to be a Yamatji person, but also really proud to have this opportunity with the rest of the artists to be able to bring them out on country and to get the feeling and be in the space, and we can get that down to some beautiful artwork and meaningful artwork that's good for our culture, good for our people, and just good for this whole collaboration with the scientists.
I hope by studying astronomy, lots of people get an interest in this, and that the kids in Bill's group will realise, this is something that lots of other people are interested in.
Bill is an elder of the Warraman tribe from Northern Territories in Australia, and it's Bill's work that we're presenting here tonight. It's his knowledge, his traditional knowledge.
In the US, there's a much longer tradition of, I think, recognising Indigenous culture and Indigenous astronomy. So when Bill Harney goes over to Colorado and talks about Aboriginal astronomy, people already know about Native American astronomy, and so they have a context.
We share the knowledge from both sides, the Aboriginal astronomy and the white astronomy. He brought it up, everything from England, and I brought up everything from Australia and Aboriginal astronomy. We put those two together and made it proper work. Now, with the storytelling about the star, a lot of people, because we told them, what do you now see in town? You see the star, you just walk past the star, you don't know what that mean to you and all that. All you see the glare of the star. This is a story about the star. Then we give it to them. We give them the white man's side, Aboriginal side. And they're happy.
If you'd like further information about the show or to watch other Message Stick episodes, check out our website at abc.net.au/messagestick. See you next week.
Message Stick kung ibalanda o yako.